40 years ago hit me up in a text during our readings because she was on YouTube watching us.
Wow, fantastic.
Years ago, hit me up in a text during our feedback readings because she was on YouTube watching us.
Wow, wonderful.
Years ago, hit me up in a text. In a loop. Truman Show.
Yeah.
So Acyutananda Prabhu reminded me that this one song by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Shuddha Bhakata Charanarenu, makes reference to Ekadasi. So I have brought it up here whenever he wants to.
You can start.
So can start.
Do you want to put it on or?
Yeah. Okay. Share screen. And where are we? I'm just buzzing around here in the background, folks. Okay, there it is. And just want to make sure I'm sharing the right thing here. Why don't I have it lined up? Hold on. Okay, there it is. And share screen. There it is. Okay, Jai. All right, and this is from Sharanagati.
Yes.
Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote the Gita Mala, Sharanagati, and Kalyana.
Kalyana Kalpataru, yes.
Those are his three main songbooks, right?
Hundreds of songs.
Oh, really? Well, those are the three main books, though. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
He wrote some songs for the village sahajiyas in their style. Like if you were to, I think Radha Krishna Bol and Jai Goda, Gai Goda, Madhur, those are written in more folk song, but full of tattva teachings.
Would those be considered the melodies of the balls?
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah. He wrote more of them like that.
Can everyone see the song, the lyrics? Yeah.
Okay.
Hit it, maestro.
Shuddha Bhakata Charanarenu Bhajanaya Nukula. Everybody.
Shuddha Bhakata Charanarenu Bhajanaya Nukula.
Bhakata Seva Parama Siddhi Premalati Karamula.
Bhakata Seva Parama Siddhi Premalati Karamula.
Madhavati Te Bhakti Janani Jatane Palana Kori.
Madhavati Bhakti Janani Etane Palana Kori.
Krishna Bhasati Varsati Bole Paramaya Darabori.
Krishna Bhasati Bole
Parama Adare Bori.
Gora Samara Jesabastane Korolo Brahmana Range.
Gora Maharaj Sabashtane Koralo Brahmanarange.
Desabastane Herivo Ami Pranay Bhakata Sange.
Desabastane Herivo Ami Pranay Bhakata Sange.
Skip a page here. There's more verses. Mridangavadya Sunite Manna Avasara Sadajati.
Mridanga
Madhya Sunitamana Avasara Jada Jaje
Ora Vahita Kirtana Shuni Anande Hridaya Nache.
Gorahita Kirtana Shuni Anande Hridoya Nache
Gugala Murti Dakhiya Mora Paramayananda Hoya.
Yugala
Murti Dekhiya Mora Parama Ananda
Hoya
Prasada Seva Korite Hoya Sakala Prapancha Jaya.
Prasada
Seva Korite Hoya Sakala Pranchana Jaya
Edina Grihe Bhajana Deki Grihete Goloka Bhaya.
Yedina Grihe Bhajana Deki Grihete Goloka Bhaya
Charana Siddhu Dakhiya Ganga Sukana Sima Paya.
Charana Siddhu Dekhiye Ganga Sukha Sasima Bhaya
Tulasi Dakhi Juraya Prana Madhava Rastosha Nijani.
Tulasi Dekhi Juraya Prana Madhava Toshani Jani
Gaura Priya Sakar Sebane Jivana Sartaka Mani.
Gaura Priya Sahasivane Jivana
Sartakamani
Bhakti Vinoda Krishna Bhajane Anukula Paya Jaha.
Bhakata Vinoda Krishna Bhajane Anukula Paya Jana
Pratidivase Paramasukhe Sukhara Koroyetaha.
Rati Divase Paramasuke Sikara Koroyeta.
We'll read. Translation: the dust of the lotus feet of pure devotees, enthusiastic devotional service, and the service of, let me get rid of this, and service to the pure devotees of the highest order are the roots of the creeper of devotion. Someone else?
Chandra.
The holy days, like Ekadasi and Janmashtami, are the mother of devotion for those devotees who respect them. Let the holy places of Krishna's pastimes be my places of worship, and bless me.
The Patni.
May I always visit holy places associated with the Leela of Lord Caitanya and his devotees.
Vijay Garanga.
When I hear the sound of the mridanga in my heart, I always desire to join in kirtan. And when I hear the bona fide songs describing Lord Chaitanya's pastimes, my heart dances in ecstasy.
Jagadananda.
Yes, Prabhu. I'm on my phone, it's real small. Yeah. Number 4?
5.
Number 5. Whenever I see the transcendental cause of Radha Krishna, I am in bliss. For taking their lordships prasad, we can conquer over the material elements.
One day while performing devotional practices, I saw my house transformed into Goloka Vrindavan. When I take the Charnamrita of the deity, I see the holy Ganges waters that come from the feet of Lord Vishnu, and my bliss knows no bounds. Acyutananda Prabhu, do you want to finish it?
By seeing the Tulsi tree, my heart feels joy, and Lord Madhava, Krishna, is also satisfied. When I eat the prasadam favored by Lord Chaitanya, it is a new life's experience. Lord Chaitanya was very fond of green vegetable preparations called sak. And there's another song in this book that tells of the amazing effects of this type of prasadam.
Ektina Shanti Pure. Bhaktivinoda concludes by saying, whoever attains the stage of enthusiasm for these devotional practices will be supremely blissful wherever he or she may be. So it says this song was one of Vishnu Jan Swami's favorites, but Vishnu Jan Swami had to have learned it from you because you are the source, right?
Yeah.
For us.
Yes.
Did he learn it all from recordings, or did you spend a little time with him?
He came to Calcutta for a few weeks, yeah.
So you were bhajaning together.
Yes.
That must have been pretty ecstatic.
Oh, yes.
Okay, who else has joined? Siddhanta Prabhu has come.
Local Guru is out in the field, but he may join on phone.
And Jivan Mukta Prabhu has joined too. Jai. Obeisances. Hare Krishna to both of you. All right, shall we commence from where we left off in the teachings of Lord Chaitanya?
Yeah.
And Siddhanta Prabhu, you know, you have a special, you have the carte blanche, huh? You can.
Carte blanche.
Yeah.
American Express.
You can, if you ever have one of those juicy Prabhupada anecdotes, you know, you just break in anytime.
Okay, I'll jump in. Thank you.
Okay, of course.
And I have a nice grammar lesson.
Yes.
So when it says, when a vowel ends, when a word ends in a vowel and the next word starts with a vowel, we put in a ya. Bhajanaya anukul, bhajana. You don't say bhajana anukul, you say bhajanaya anukula. So this brings up Vishwanath Chakravarti had a problem with the Kama Gayatri mantra because it said it had, 14 or 12 and a half syllables. How can there be a half a syllable? And so he was very upset over this. And Radharani came down and explained where it was. It's in the ya in there. So that is put in there too as euphony to continue. There's no break and thing. And then some other time, if necessary, and this has become a bad habit, when there's conjunct consonants, that's called yukta vyanjan. A lot of devotees will, let's say there's a word icha, and I hear devotees saying ichcha, and they break it up. Well, that's the same double cha as in Satchidananda. We don't say Satchidananda. And so this is kind of hard to explain, but I'll explain it another time.
That's because of the sandhi, is it?
Yes.
Okay. But what was your original little Sanskrit grammar lesson when you were talking about anukul ya? What was the point there?
That you put in a ya. This is the grammar. So that's half a syllable.
Okay. All right. I guess.
I've noticed it's become a habit now in English that usually when the is followed by a word with a vowel, we say the, what's a vowel word? The opening. But people are saying the opening, the, I can't think of a word. But we would always say the opening or the. Now they're only saying the every time, whether it's a consonant or a vowel. It's a new habit I've just seen by announcers. And
you were saying traditionally it was the.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the apple. The apple, not the apple.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's Kali Yuga. We're just degenerating.
It must be that.
No, that it really is. That's what's happening. All of these social expressions are related to Kali Yuga.
Yeah.
Everything's becoming more and more gross.
Yeah, I just heard a new country western song. All my exes changed their sexes.
That sounds like that's Kali Yuga song.
Really madness, and it's really not. It's really not funny.
Oh my.
Ugly. It's so ugly.
Oh,
It's really hideous. And they graduate. They graduate in a degree in these subjects, and they don't realize nobody's going to hire them. And they owe $150,000 in student loan debt. No wonder they're protesting and screaming in the street. And Prabhupada said, after frustration with sense gratification, then there will be violence. And that's
Well, they're
likely.
tearing down statues in Canada now as well.
Oh, good. Very good.
okay, here we are. We're talking about the four sampradayas. Acyutananda Prabhu, would you like to begin about the four different sects of Vaishnava?
Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. There are four different sects of Vaishnava acharyas. The Shuddha Dvaita, he's talking about their tattvas. The Shuddha Dvaita, that's the Vishnu Swami. Vishishta Dvaita, that's Ramanuja. Dvaita Dvait, that's Nimbarka. And Achintya Veda Veda. I don't see Dvaita. All the Vaishnava acharyas in these schools have written commentaries on the Vedanta Sutra, but the Mayavadi philosophers do not recognize them. The Mayavadis distinguish between Krishna and Krishna's body, and therefore they do not recognize the worship of Krishna by the Vaishnava philosophers. Thus, when the Mayavadi sannyasis asked Lord Chaitanya why he did not study the Vedanta Sutra, the Lord replied, "Dear sirs, you have asked me why I do not study Vedanta, and in answer to this, I would speak something that I'm afraid that you would be sorry to hear."
Acyutananda Prabhu, you said Dvaita is not here. What school is that?
No, there it is. No, there it is. I see it now. It's no Dvaita, Dvaita. That's the Nimbarka. And Achintya Veda. Okay. So, because Achintya Veda is our tattva, which includes the Madhva Gaudiya. So Madhva's tattva was Dvaita, dual. Everything. He had five pairs of dualities. Let's see if I can remember them. There's a difference between Krishna and the Jiva. There's a difference between the Jiva and Maya. Prakriti. There's a difference between Krishna and Prakriti. There's a difference between Jiva and Jiva, and there's a difference between Jada Jada. There's a difference between objects, between things. So he had five Dvaitas and a very strong anti-Advaita soldier, general. That's why the Madhva Sampradaya in Udupi, they loved us because they saw Prabhupada's prayer was Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha, that would come to crack the Mayavadis.
So our Achintya Veda states then that there is a simultaneous Dvaita between Krishna, the Jivas, Maya, and simultaneously one. Yes. Simultaneously one and different.
And one of the Madhva Acharyas said, I understand Veda Veda, Dvaita Dvait, but why Achintya? And I said, because you never know which is oneness or difference unless there's bhakti. Sridhar Maharaj used to say that the harmonization, this is Bhaktisiddhanta's term also, to harmonize this. When do you know that? Because the Mayavadis get it all backwards, get it all confused, like I'm one with everything. Well, then can you eat sweets? Yes. Can you eat fire? No. Then Prabhupada once said that. Can you eat fire? To the Mayavadi. No. So what is the harmony between this oneness and difference that is inconceivable? It becomes conceivable. Premanjana churita bhakti vilochanena santa sadaiva hridayeshu vilokayanti yang shamasudara tinchigura surupa. By tinging the eye with the lotion of love, then everything, you will know what to do and when things are one and when things are different. but that's
But even-
going on all the time.
But even strictly from a philosophical point of view, the analogy of the body is I always found to be perfect. You know, the body is one, yet there are so many separate components. You can't say the ear is the body, but the body without the ear isn't a complete body. So, you know, or the hands or the, you know, so it's a perfect analogy of Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva.
And they're different. The hand is not the stomach, but we feed the stomach and then the hand gets its strength.
Mhm.
You know that example?
Yeah.
Prabhupada said they went, all the limbs of the body went on strike. Why should we only serve the stomach? Stomach is only eating. So they stopped and they got weaker and weaker. And they said, we better feed the stomach because that's where our strength comes
Mhm.
from. Or watering the root.
Mhm.
We love that. I love that story.
Garanga, do you want to read the next paragraph? It's a short one. Why don't you read the little one and the longer one?
Sure. We shall be very much pleased to hear you, all the sannyasis replied. You appear just like Narayan, and your speeches are so nice that we are taking great pleasure in them. We are very much obliged to see and hear you. Therefore, we shall be very glad to hear patiently and accept whatever you say. The Lord then began to speak on Vedanta philosophy as follows. Vedanta Sutra is spoken by the Supreme Lord himself. The Supreme Lord, in his incarnation as Vyasadeva, has compiled this great philosophical treatise. Since Vyasadeva is an incarnation of the Supreme Lord, he cannot be likened to an ordinary person who has the 4 defects which arise due to contact with material existence. The defects of a conditioned soul are: 1, he must commit mistakes; 2, he must be illusioned; 3, he must possess the tendency to cheat others; and 4, all his senses must be imperfect. We must understand that the incarnation of God is transcendental to all these defects. Thus, whatever has been spoken and written by Vyasadeva is considered to be perfect. The Upanishads and Vedanta Sutra aim at the same goal, the supreme absolute truth. When we accept the import of Vedanta Sutra and the Upanishads directly as they are stated, we become glorified. The commentaries made by Shankaracharya, however, are indirect and are very dangerous for the common man to read, for by understanding the import of the Upanishads in such an indirect, disruptive way, one practically bars himself from spiritual realization.
Any comments or questions on that? Okay, Krishna Chandra Prabhu.
Oh, yes, Prabhu. Let's see. Shall I begin right now?
According to the Skanda.
Oh, thank you. According to the Skanda and Vayu Puranas, the word sutra refers to a condensed work which carries meaning and import of immeasurable strength without mistake or fault. The word Vedanta means the end of Vedic knowledge. In other words, any book which deals with the subject matter indicated by all the Vedas is called Vedanta. For example, Bhagavad Gita is Vedanta because in Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that the ultimate goal of all Vedic research is Krishna. Thus, Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, which aim only at Krishna, are to be understood to be Vedanta.
Acyutananda Prabhu, I vaguely remember there's some comparison to Vedanta and Danta, which refers to teeth, something about knocking your teeth out. Do you know what I'm talking about?
But that's a different, that's just a different subject, a joke. But in this case, the verse is Sarvasya cha ham hridi sanivishto mataspurti vijnanam apohanam cha Vedesya sarvairaham eva vedyo vedanta krid vedavid eva cha. I am the knower and I am the composer of the Vedas. I am what is to be known by the Vedas. And I am the writer of the Vedas.
Right. Jagadananda Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu. In transcendental realization, there are three divisions of knowledge called Prasthana Traya. That department of knowledge, which is proved by Vedic instruction, like the Upanishads, is called Suji Prasthana. Authoritative books indicating the ultimate goal and written by liberated souls, for example, Bhagavad Gita, Mahabharata, and the Puranas, especially Srimad Bhagavatam and Mahapurana, are called Smriti Prasthana. From Vedic literatures, we understand that the Vedas originated from the breathing of Narayan. Vyasadeva, who is the incarnation of the power of Narayan, has compiled the Vedanta Sutra, Nyaya Prasthana. But according to Shankara's commentaries, Apantaratma Rishi is also accredited with having compiled the codes of Vedanta Sutra. According to Lord Caitanya, the codes of the Pancharatra are the codes of Vedanta, and the codes of Vedanta are one and the same. Since the Vedanta Sutra is compiled by Vyasadeva, it should be understood to be spoken by Narayan himself. From all perspective descriptive literatures dealing with Vedanta Sutra, it appears that there are many other rishis contemporary with Vyasadeva who also discussed Vedanta Sutra. These sages were Artreya, Asmaratya, Adulomi, Krishnajini, Kasa Krishna, Jaimini. How's that spelled? Or how's that pronounced?
Krishna.
Kasha Krishna.
Karsagya, Karsajini, and Kasa Krishna.
Kasa Krishna. Okay, thank you. Jaimini, Badari, and other sages such as Parasari and Karmandi.
Any comments on that, Acyutananda Prabhu?
No.
Okay,
I have a story.
good,
It's a rather long one.
Go on.
good.
Okay,
Go
we're
on.
talking about the sampradayas. So if you'll bear with me as I read this story by Atma Tattva. Today is Ekadashi, right?
Yes.
So Atma Tattva, this is his voice. One Ekadashi during the Kumbh Mela in Allahabad, Prabhupada was sitting back with his eyes closed, his legs stretched under his desk, talking about Ekadashi. Prabhupada said, lotus pods fried in ghee are very good on Ekadashi. Somebody immediately ran to the market to arrange for lotus pods, but just 2 minutes later, Ramanandi Brahman and his 9-year-old son arrived, both of them wearing Ramanandi tilak. They paid their obeisances, and the father put a cloth bag from his shoulder on Prabhupada's desk. Prabhupada put his hand in it and said, just see, it has come. It was lotus pods fried in ghee. He looked at the Ramanandi and said, how are you? This man happened to be the priest of a Bengali family in Firozabad, UP, where Prabhupada used to stay. Even though this person was a Ramanandi, he did the Gaurnitai deity worship for his family. Prabhupada ate some of the pods, distributed the rest, and said to the Ramanandi, you haven't taken bath in the confluence, the Sangam? The Ramanandi said, Swamiji, I have come to take bath in the Sangam. And he put a plate under Prabhupada's feet. Prabhupada adjusted his feet on the plate, and this man bathed Prabhupada's feet in Sangam water from his pot while he chanted mantras. Prabhupada looked at him, smiling. During that time, December 1976, it was rare to get Prabhupada's Charnamrita, and all of us desired it. This Ramanandi sprinkled that water on his head, drank some, and then sprinkled some of it on all of us. He said to Prabhupada, your feet are the actual Sangam. What will we get in bathing that Sangam? Your feet will purify the Ganges. And since you are not going to the Ganges, I brought the Ganga here. I will mix some of this Charnamrita in the Ganga. Prabhupada smiled and said, give me your son. I will make him an Acharya. This man said, he is yours, Swamiji. You can take him anytime. Prabhupada said, no. Anytime means no time. You give him to me now. I will make him an Acharya. The Ramanandi said, Swamiji, now he is learning Sanskrit grammar. To study the bhashyas, the commentaries, he must know some grammar. Once his Vyakarana is over, then I will hand him over to you. He is yours. Prabhupada insisted for the fourth time, no, what grammar? We don't need grammar. Give him to me. I will make him an acharya. This man said, Swamiji, I am not saying no. Everything mine is yours, but he is too small. He will only be trouble for you. In a few years, I will hand him over to you. Prabhupada said, okay, TK. And he rubbed the boy's head. After that, there were other visitors to see Prabhupada, and this man and his son left. Years passed, and the Ramananda Sampradaya broke into many inimical sects. Then one year, I was taking 10 Gurukula boys to the Allahabad Kumbh Mela, and I was surprised to learn that the Ramanandas had elected one young sannyasi to lead their whole Sampradaya, and that they had a huge Ramananda stall at the festival. I told the Gurukula boys, we will have this leader's darshan. That one sadhu united the whole Sampradaya is unheard of, and you boys should meet the person who has this potency. God knows, tomorrow you may become a guru. So we went to see him. We were given priority because some of the boys were from South America, Australia, and so on. There were about 100 people with this young sannyasi, men with long beards and matted locks of hair, all 3 times older than him and leaders in their own right. This young sannyasi was sitting on a big seat, and people were fanning him with the chamara. We paid obeisances, and a Gurukula boy from South America loudly chanted the sannyas shukta, which is a traditional way to greet a sannyasi. As he started chanting, everyone became silent. And after he had finished, this young Maharaj composed a Sanskrit poem about Prabhupada.
Wow.
He recited, if I say that neither in the past nor in the future will there be an acharya equal to the acharya of the Hare Krishna movement, I won't be committing an offense to the founder of my line, Ramananda, because in his commentary, Ramananda himself predicted that Vishnu worship would spread around the world and that the whole world would take to it. As he was talking, I realized that this was the same person who, as a small boy, had his head rubbed by Srila Prabhupada. He finished 4 slokas glorifying Prabhupada and ended with the glorification of Lord Jagannath. Then he honored each boy separately. And when I went up to him he said, Atma Tattva Prabhu, do you remember me? You used to carry me on your back. Atma Tattva said, when I traveled on Padayatra, we stayed at his father's house. At that time, I was a brahmachari, and I used to carry this boy on my back. He used to call me Lokanath Maharaj, an old man, because he had white hair. He said, Prabhupada spoke about me becoming an acharya. My father never brought me to the Hare Krishna movement, but before he passed away, he told me that I had to study the Sankara Bhashya so that I could defeat it. That was his last wish. So for 4 years, I stayed with the Mayavadis in Benares and studied the commentary of Shankara. It was painful. Our whole Sampradaya had split up over misunderstandings, and I thought that since I had Prabhupada's blessings, maybe I could unite us. I tried for 9 years, and this year it has happened. By the blessings of your Guru Maharaj, we are united. Ramananda said that as long as we were broken, we would never be able to fulfill his prediction. But Ramananda also said, we don't have to fulfill that prediction because it has already been fulfilled by these people. We simply have to join and preach with them. Their movement is spreading around the world. Using us as a catalyst, this young sannyasi preached to everyone assembled there in that way. It was great to hear from him.
Wow.
All right.
Can you please say something more, Acyutananda Prabhu, about is Ramananda related to any of those 4 Vaishnava Sampradayas, or is he kind of?
I heard it's sort of breakaway, and the ones that we saw, 2 of them came to Bombay and they said, well, we believe that you worship Krishna and then you merge into Brahman. I said, then no. But this is a pure, perfect Vaishnava. So they might have been imitation Ramanandis. But Ramanandi was a disciple of Ramanuja. Ramanuja did not allow anyone to touch his feet. And Ramanandi one time spread his cloth on the steps in the dark, and Ramanuja stepped on it, and he grabbed that cloth back and put it on his head. And I don't know the rest of the story, how they became a separate zone, but they all seem to be in competition with the Shaivite Nagababas, that a lot of them go naked, or they have big jata, dreadlocks, big tilak, big beads, and they perform some severe austerity sometimes. But this story is very, very nice, that he even composed verses. Usually any other sampradaya, they want to have, fancy word, ecclesiastical ascendancy, because I'm the chief, I have to be chief over everybody. But this one showed such devotion to Prabhupada. I never heard this story. It's fantastic.
Hare Krishna.
Right.
Yeah.
Courtesy of Siddhanta Prabhu's.
No,
Wonderful.
courtesy of Atma Tattva.
Atma Tattva, wow.
I'm just
you read-
facilitating.
Yes. Thank you for doing.
I had Atma Tattva stay with me for a few months, 20 years ago or so. It was incredible, like just constant, like a constant flow of nectar. It was just so nice.
He
And
came to
about going to, this is a really bad story about a great, well, Madhvacharya was being taught by, his first class was by some Mayavadi. I'm not sure if it was Madhva or Ramanuja, oh boy. But when he was a little boy, he went to a Mayavadi Gurukul, and this is horrible to hear, but you'll see why. The Mayavadi was explaining, this verse is a description of Vishnu. Now, Vishnu has lotus eyes, and in the very corners, it's pink, like the backside of a monkey.
Right.
And Ramanuja or Madhva, I forget, you can find this out for me. I haven't said this so long. So Ramanuja or Madhva, they start crying, and the Guru says, you're a Vaishnava, get out. So, why are you crying? I said, how can you explain like that? So, look at these.
Thank you.
There's a beautiful movie. Oh, it's Madhvacharya actually, Prabhuji. There's a beautiful movie with Indian actors.
Yeah, I saw, and there's also an animated one, pretty good.
Yeah.
Just as a note to Jivan Mukta Prabhu, you have the flash drive now with
Yes,
all the
I do.
memories on it.
Yeah.
So if you want, Atma Tattva is on a couple of them, but one significant. This one is from video number 36. If you want to take note and watch
Okay.
that.
Great, thank you.
Okay, so
I'm gonna do one of these weekend binges where I
Okay.
just go, like, just, people have these Netflix binges.
Yes.
I'm gonna go on, these memories binges where I'm just gonna
Jai.
fast
Radha-
and just
good.
watch.
Radhanath Swami told me maybe 15 years ago he broke his leg or something like that, and he was laid up for a good long time, and he just binge watched all the memories that I'd produced at that point.
Well, I found that, because my memory is so shot, that I remember watching one, and then, after a little while, you watch it again, and it's like fresh. It's ever fresh. You realize,
right.
oh yeah, I remember listening to this, but it's like it takes on a different perspective. And
Yeah. What's that in maybe Acyutananda, I'm sure in the Nectar Devotion, what's the Sanskrit for ever fresh? Nitya, Sevana, Nitya.
Navayovana.
Navayomana, yeah.
Navayomana.
ever
Right. Thank you.
Jivan Mukta Prabhu, would you like to read the next paragraph?
I would love to. Actually, in the first two chapters of Vedanta Sutra, the relationship between the living entities and the Supreme Lord is explained. And in the third chapter, the discharge of devotional service is explained. The fourth chapter deals with the relationship which results from discharging devotional service. The natural commentary on Vedanta Sutra is Srimad Bhagavatam. The great acharyas of the four Vaishnava communities, Sampradayas, namely Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, Vishnuswami, Nimbarka, have also written commentaries on Vedanta Sutra by following the principles of Srimad Bhagavatam. At present, the followers of all the acharyas have written many books following the principles of Srimad Bhagavatam as the commentary on the Vedanta. Shankar's commentary on Vedanta Sutra, known as Chariraka Bhashya, is very much adored by the impersonalist scholars, but commentaries written on the Vedanta, written from the materialistic point of view, are completely adverse to the transcendental service of the Lord. Consequently, Lord Caitanya said that different commentaries on the Upanishads and Vedanta Sutra are glorious, but that anyone who follows the indirect path of Shankaracharya's Sharirika Bhashya is certainly doomed.
Mayavadi Bhasha Shunile Hoilo Sarvanash. And a lot of devotees, they get hired, they get paid to come to yoga places to do kirtan and bring prasadam because they're bored as hell meditating on nothing. A lot of ISKCON devotees, we go there and they get paid, and they say, well, we don't blast the Mayavadi. And well, don't listen to them. It will destroy everything. They use Prabhupada's favorite expression, jugglery of words. Jugglery of words.
Don't listen to who? The ISKCON devotees?
The Mayavadis.
Or the Mayavadi?
The yoga people.
Mayavadi Bhasha.
Yes.
The talk of Mayavadi, Shunile, if you hear, Hoido, what will become? Sarva, everything be destroyed. Sarva nash.
Mm. You know, when you look at the situation, you wonder, how is it that the Mayavadis could overcome the very logical situation where you've got the compiler of Vedanta who gives a summary of Vedanta, and yet you completely reject that. You don't even give it any credence at all. I mean, Vedanta, they do acknowledge that the Vedanta sutras were written by Vyasadeva, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so if they acknowledge that Vyasadeva wrote and compiled the Vedanta sutras, how can they avoid his summary? What logic do they use to get to that point?
I never really went that deep into what they say, but Shankara came to convert the Buddhists, or to at least reestablish the Sanatana Dharma culture.
Mm-hmm.
So he spoke what's called Prachanna Bodh. The hidden Buddhism is covered, and he spoke the same Buddhism only by quoting the Vedas. And at least it preserved and reestablished, because if it weren't for him, the Sanatana Dharma would have been lost.
And I could understand that. Like, that makes sense to me. You know, his goal, his objective, with respect to that. But when you bring the Mayavadis, the Mayavadis converting the Buddhists, I could see that. But the Mayavadis trying to preach or convert Vaishnavas is absolutely nonsensical. I mean, it makes no sense at all.
Well, he didn't convert the Buddhists, he drove them out.
Mm.
And when I was in India, there were no homegrown Buddhists at all. The temples in Gaya, they were run by Burmese and Japanese Buddhists. But Shankaracharya, how did he do it? With that yadva, by going with a connotation. And they would emphasize certain things which seem to sound abstract. Shankaracharya has four major, he calls them Mahavakyas, great sayings, great slogans, Maha words. Aham Brahmasmi, Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma, Pragyanam Brahma, Aham Brahma, Tattvamasi. These are the great ones. They love to emphasize Nirguna, Nirakash, near everything that is non-material. Same as Buddhism.
So no Buddhists gave up the, that Buddhism and embraced Shankaracharya's.
Maybe, but I don't know. Maybe some who were converted to Buddhism. But Prabhupada said Buddha is Shakti Avatar, and his Shakti was to convert huge numbers in a very short time. Because by then, the 10 avatars move from, and it's not evolution, from fish to tortoise to Nrsimha to Parsuram, now human, now Vamana, a small human, and then Parsuram, Ram, Krishna, and then Buddha. Because after Krishna, there's nothing. So at the disappearance of Krishna, Kali comes in, and there was arguing. That's a period that scholars call Brahmanism, the Brahmanism times. The Brahmins would, and they did terrible things, and they really in South India, they had extreme, what we call Jim Crow laws against the lower caste. It was terrible. So Buddha came and said, I reject Vedic culture, and just everybody close your eyes and think of nothing. And which is impossible. I'm trying to think of nothing. I just can't do. Well, keep trying, But at least you won't be arguing. You'll be silent. They love the sound of silence. No color, no shape, no form. When Krishna says, I am Nirguna, they can't figure that out. How can Vishnu be Nirguna? He's not material. He's not one of the 3 gunas. But he has a form, that's a guna. No, these gunas and these forms come from the original Narayan form. That's Ramanujan Madhva.
So within that ascendancy of incarnations that you described, how does Kalki fit in?
There's a version that says this, in this Kali Yuga, Kalki won't come because Lord Chaitanya is Avatari. Krishna is Avatari, has all the, and maybe my idea that Kalki is not needed in this round, because maybe by then everyone will have heard some kind of namabas. Even I went to a supermarket, their specialty was non-vegetarian. I mean, there's just rows and rows of Shuddhamangsha, fresh meat. And over the loudspeaker, I hear George Harrison. My Sweet Lord is playing.
Sure.
So perhaps everybody will do.
I was just reading in the, I believe it's the 15th or 16th chapter of Chaitanya Charitamrita, where Lord Chaitanya was asked, how do you identify who is a devotee? And Lord Chaitanya said, whoever chants the name of the Lord once is a devotee. Prabhupada in the purport goes on to say, of course, that that chanting has to be done with faith. But then he goes on to say that one who chants is actually one who chants in that manner. It's not even necessary to get initiated. Even the initiation process is secondary and is rendered unnecessary to someone who's actually chanting with faith.
Any more potatoes? Let's make you one.
Sorry, there is a fantastic book, a little book by Acyutananda Maharaj, where he, I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes.
We can hear you.
Yeah.
We can't
Okay.
see you, but we
All
hear
right.
you.
Dandavas Prabhu, I'm sorry, I got a little late here. In that one, Narada Muni has a conversation with Shiva, Lord Shiva, who is lamenting, saying, "No, I'm not favored by the Lord. Actually, I'm I'm doing a kind of a dirty work, and saying it mentions that Krishna is sending Lord Shiva as Shankaracharya to stop the demoniac, the asuras, from using devotional service to perform bhakti. So deviates a lot of them. Because many times you hear, by several acharyas how demoniac these mayavadis are. And they do attract people who have no intention of performing devotional service. So the task of Lord Shiva as Shankaracharya, according to Maharaj, is that, and actually it's Narada Muni, it's a conversation, is to deviate the demons from performing devotional service.
Bhakti Pragakeshwara Maharaj wrote a book about that.
Yes.
Also, by this, I mean, if do they worship Shankaracharya? I mean, they offer respects to him. So being a devotee, don't they also benefit from that?
Who knows? But their worship is false because that's his human form, but he's really void like me. It backfires on them, and that's why it spreads atheism.
Right. The other thing you mentioned is about Kalki not appear in this age of Kali, and Maharaj, Sri Narayan Maharaj mentioned that it's in commentaries by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, where he mentions that there will be no need of Kalki appearing.
Yeah. Oh, very good. I had only heard that Narayan Maharaj said that, but now Narayan Maharaj is quoting Vishwanath. That's Sadhu Shastra Guru.
Right.
Always.
Yeah, always.
That doesn't contradict with Srila Prabhupada saying that Kalki will appear in 427,000 years?
Yes, it does. Suck it up.
It's the scheduled appearance, but there's no need.
Yeah.
He's scheduled to appear, but because of the golden age of Lord Caitanya and Sankirtan, he won't need to come.
Yes.
Okay.
But I thought that the golden age would last only 10,000 years, not 400,000 years. So 10,000 years is a lot less than 400,000. So at the end of 400.
Well, that's my mistake. I shouldn't have mentioned the golden age, but because of the influence of Harinam, Sankirtan, and Lord Caitanya actually appearing, Krishna himself appeared as Lord Caitanya. That's not every time.
So like Acyutananda Prabhu was saying, Avatari, he's not scheduled really, but he appears. And usually the Leela avatars, Guna avatar, they all appear towards the end of the age. This time Krishna was somewhat, because he's Swatantra, he's independent, isn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't he?
Yes.
Nandapatni, did you want to continue?
Lord Caitanya admitted that Sankaracharya was an incarnation of Lord Shiva, and it's known that Lord Shiva is one of the greatest devotees, a Mahajan, of the Bhagavat school. There are 12 great authorities on devotional service, and Lord Shiva is one of them. Why then did he adopt the process of Mayavadi philosophy? The answer is given in the Padma Purana, where Lord Shiva states, and I will just carry on the translation, the Mayavadi philosophy is veiled Buddhism. In other words, the voidist philosophy of Buddha is more or less repeated in the Mayavadi philosophy of impersonalism, although the Mayavadi philosophy claims to be directed by the Vedic conclusions. Lord Shiva, however, admits that this philosophy is manufactured by him in the age of Kali in order to mislead the atheists. Actually, the Supreme Personality of Godhead has his transcendental body. Gaurav,
You have
can you
to
scroll up a bit? Okay, Lord Shiva states, but I describe the Supreme as impersonal. I also explain the Vedanta Sutra according to the same principles of Mayavadi philosophy.
Jivan Mukta, did you read yet? I can't remember.
Yes, I did.
Siddhanta didn't read.
Okay, in the Shiva Purana, the Supreme Lord says, and I'll also go right to the English translation, in the beginning of the Dvarpa Yuga, directed by my orders, many sages will bewilder the people in general by Mayavadi philosophy. In the Padma Purana, Lord Shiva personally tells Bhagavad Devi, my dear Devi, sometimes I teach Mayavadi philosophy. Hold on, I got to get rid of that. My dear Devi, sometimes I teach Mayavadi philosophy for those who are engrossed in the mode of ignorance. But if a person in the mode of goodness happens to hear this Mayavadi philosophy, he falls down. For when teaching Mayavadi philosophy, I say that the living entity and the Supreme Lord are one and the same. Now, didn't Prabhupada talk about in the Bhagavatam that there were two Buddhas, but the one Buddha came to, because there was so much animal slaughter that was being performed based on the Vedas.
Yes, I heard.
They were killing indiscriminately.
Yeah, the month would say that, and Bhakti Pragya Keshav Maharaj writes an article that this Buddha is not, is a different Buddha. So I don't know.
I think Siddhanta Prabhu, I think you're referring to the purport in Srimad Bhagavatam where speaks about Lord Buddha in another kalpa, in another age where he flies. He's actually fighting demons in spaceship.
Yes. I often wonder, maybe he's an astronaut named Bud. But it says he protects the Earth from attack of flying spaceships.
I think my kids watched a Disney movie with Bud, astronaut called Bud.
Yeah.
I don't know about that, but there was, I believe, a purport explaining how at a certain time, people were using the Vedas to indiscriminately kill animals without going through the Vedic process of taking the animal live, putting him on the altar and Durga's altar and chanting mantras in the animal's ear to say, my next life, you will have the opportunity to kill me. And so Buddha came to say, forget the Vedas, just follow me to help the stopping of the indiscriminate killing of animals, that they were using the Vedas as justification, but not following it to the exact extent that the Vedas describe.
That's what I thought that this latest Buddha's objective was.
Yes. By rejecting Vedas, you reject the Vedic sacrifice, ahimsa. But I mean, so many Asians that I've seen who claim to be Buddhists, they eat everything.
I mean, if we're nothing, if in the end we all become nothing, what's the difference?
Yeah, that's one of the offshoots of this philosophy that why not?
Nothing matters.
We were at Dr. Mishra's ashram, and there was some guy who was an intellectual, and they all said, "Oh, he's a tamed Brahman." And in the morning walk, we saw him, and he had an apple in one hand and a cigarette in the other. Prabhupada said, "Which one is better?" And he goes, he looks this way and that way. It's all one for me. The Prabhupada said, "Why don't you eat the cigarette and smoke the apple?" He giggled. He was
Okay, I'll take a turn here since I think everyone, no, Nurhari Prabhu hasn't read yet. Nurhari Prabhu, Sarananda Yogi.
Okay, but we have a question before this.
Okay.
And we read somewhere, I think it's from actually Sri Narayana Maharaj's books. Acyutananda Prabhu, you may know this.
Wow.
Shankaracharya ultimately was defeated and he had to enter boiling oil. That's how he left this world.
No, I didn't know that.
Oh, okay. Because I was going to ask you if you knew who defeated him. I had to go back and,
And supposedly he entered the pot of boiling oil and chanted the Govinda.
Yeah, Bhaja Govindam.
Wow.
That's his last words before he died.
His guru was never became a Buddhist, and he went, and his name was something Bhatta or Bhattacharya, and he went to the Buddhists to learn their philosophy and then defeated. And then he said, since I rejected a guru, I'm going to die a terror. So he was in a pit full of rice husks and slowly burned himself. And Shankaracharya came there. Shankaracharya heard this. And then he gave the order to Shankaracharya to continue to preserve Hindu Dharma in any way you can.
Wow. Okay. Should I proceed then to read?
Yes.
Okay. Sarananda Yogi, one of the greatest Mayavadi acharyas, has written in his book Vedanta Sara, the absolute truth of eternity, knowledge, and bliss is Brahman. Ignorance and all products of ignorance are non-Brahman. All products of the three modes of material nature are covered by ignorance, and all are different from the supreme cause and effect. This ignorance is manifested in a collective and individual sense. Collective ignorance is called Vishuddha Sattva Pradhana. When that Vishuddha Sattva Pradhana is manifest within the ignorance of material nature, it is called the Lord, and the Lord manifests all kinds of ignorance. Therefore, he is known as Sarvagya. Thus, according to Mayavadi philosophy, the Lord is a product of this material nature, and the living entity is the lowest stage of ignorance. That is the sum and substance of Mayavadi philosophy.
What? It's so depressing.
Yeah.
It's so depressing and dark.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no ananda at all. There's no relationship. There's no love. There's nothing.
Yes, you're Vaishnava, Prabhu. Kaviraj Goswami says it awakens hatred and fear in the Vaishnavas.
It is. It's horrible. It's horrible. It's like a nightmare. Could you imagine having to live like that? I can't imagine.
It appeals to the atheists. That's why it's so popular. It started in America with the hippies, and in India, most of what we call Hindus are like that. They worship the deity and then give up the deity to merge. So that's not bhakti. They think all the deities are some kind of Satagun form, even Krishna, and even Shiva in Rajagun or whatever they think. I don't know what they think. The Shankaracharya allowed 5 deities: Narayan, Shiva, Durga, Ganesh, and Surya. So it's called Panchupasika. Panch means 5. So he allowed that to go on so that the Brahmins could do all of those pujas, all those deities. So there might be what's called a Vaishnava Mayavadi. They worship Narayan with the idea of either merging into Narayan or rejecting him and merging into Brahmajyoti, because Narayan is, I'm even going to surpass Sattvagun and step on Narayan said, Bhakti Siddhanta writes the Sruti, follow Sruti for Jaiva Dharma, says they want to dismember the form of Krishna. Ugh.
Just awful.
There's reference here to Sarvagya. I have many kirtans by a Bengali devotee. I don't know if he's a godbrother or if he's from the Gaudiya Math. These are recordings from the 1970s by a Sarvagya Prabhu. Did you know anybody by that name at Acyutananda Prabhu?
No.
Okay. Maybe if you heard him, you would know. Okay, I'm the only one that didn't read so far, so I'll take a turn. If, however, we accept import of the Upanishads directly, it is clear that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is a person with unlimited potency. For example, in the Svetashvatara Upanishad, it is stated that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the origin of everything and that he has multiple potencies. That reminds me of that verse, Natasya karyam karanam chavidyate svabhavaki bala kriya cha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is transcendental to the cosmic manifestation. He is the origin of all religion, the supreme deliverer and the possessor of all opulences. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is just like the sun, profusely distributes his energies while situated beyond the cloud of this material cosmic manifestation. He is the master of masters, and he is the supreme of the supremes. He is known as the greatest Lord, the personality of Godhead. His energies and potencies are multiple and variously distributed. It is also stated that Vishnu is the supreme Lord, is the supreme, and that saintly persons are always anxious to see his lotus feet. That reminds me of that verse, Om Tad Vishnu Paramang Padang Sada Pashanti Suryo. In the Aitareya Upanishad, it is also stated that the cosmic manifestation came about when the Lord glanced over material nature, 1:1:1-2. This is also verified by the Prashna Upanishad 6.3.
Yes.
So let's, yes, do you have something to say, Acyutananda?
Yeah, I got a great opportunity to say. I said this in my book when I was describing, which I explained in one of our other classes, that Mahavishnu glances over the material nature, and from between his eyes comes that glance. And there's a statement which I just worked on, the Caitanya Bhagavat, appears in Caitanya Bhagavat, and it appears in Krishna book, 10th canto, that Krishna teases Rukmini, and he says, I'm going to become a devotee. I'm giving up the kingdom. Goodbye. I'm divorcing you. And she faints. And then Krishna manifests 4 arms, 2 arms to, not to be God, but 2 arms to pick her up and 2 arms to fix her hair and her jewels. Now he's going to get an earful. As she says, Anati Rikta Drisha. You don't look too indifferent to me when we are creating this universe, and you gaze over this universe. So he's looking very passionate. And then this light comes from his eye because Angani Yasya Sakalendriya Vritima. He has interchangeable senses. So he impregnates the universe with his vision. And so that is the expression we have in America. I remember when you were just a glint in your daddy's eye.
Mm-hmm. Excellent, excellent.
When your the husband looks lusty at the wife for creation. So I'm done.
Where's that explanation given that the Lord develops 4 arms to pick up Rukmini and straighten her hair out?
I'll probably Sarartha Darshini. I have Banu's version. It's very nice.
Wow, cool.
Yeah. Or it could be in Gopal Champu, and I heard it from Mukunda.
Okay.
Who is a very, very dependable, most advanced devotee of
Mukunda Dutt. Yeah.
Yes. In ISKCON, he was a Kendra who preached all over Africa and came to Narayan Maharaj.
So why wouldn't that that little pastime be included in the Bhagavatam, because it is included in the Bhagavatam where Rukmini faints, right?
Yeah.
But we don't hear how the exchange between them. Why would that?
That's a fantastic question. Actually, the question isn't fantastic. The answer is fantastic. Vishwanath, even Sridhar Swami and then Vishwanath Chakravarti, they put in what would have happened, what could have happened. And Krishna might answer this. And then Radha could respond like that. They put words in the mouths of not even in the original verses. They will expand on what would have happened and what might have happened. It's amazing.
Wow. Let's see if we can squeeze in another round of reading a verse each. Acyutananda Prabhu, we're back to you again.
Acyutananda. If, however, we accept, in the negative descriptions of the Lord, neti neti, which occur in the Vedic literature, as in apani pada, he has feet but no feet. There are indications that the Lord has no material body and no material form. However, he does have his spiritual transcendental body and his transcendental form. Because the Mayavadi philosophers misunderstand his transcendental nature, they explain him as impersonal. The Lord's name, form, quality, and entourage and abode are all in the transcendental world. How can he be a transformation of this material nature? Everything connected with the Supreme Lord is eternal, blissful, and full of knowledge. So the Mayavadis also, this is an important point, even we differ from the other Vaishnava, at least Ramanuja. Krishna does not turn himself into the material world. His energy does. This is called Shakti Vikar, change. The energy changes. Again, this is great. Our Atma is never touched by any material nature, but the Caitanya, just like Krishna has his Brahmajyoti, which is consciousness, the Jivatma, each of our Atmas has a Jyoti of consciousness, very, very minute. We're just conscious of our body and a little bit of what we can get around us. That consciousness, Chaito Darpanamarjanam, to cleanse the Chaitanya, to cleanse the consciousness of the Jiva, not Atma Darpanamarjanam. Atma is always untouched. Krishna is always untouched, but his energies can change. Prabhupada's example, I get to say this. Prabhupada's example, electric current comes from the powerhouse. Electric current is by nature hot. It can run an electric heater, but by change of the electric current, it can be made into a refrigerator. The effect is cold. So Krishna's energy in the spiritual sky is spiritual, and then by manipulation of the energy, not Krishna transforming, but the energy vikar, the energy converts into dead matter. Yeah.
Krishna Chandra Prabhu, you're up next.
Jai.
Can you clarify too, though, that is the other sampradayas are saying that Krishna transforms, but the Gaudiya Vaishnavas are not.
Well, I know the Ramanuja says that it's Bhagavan Vikar, Pariman.
Right.
We have a difference with them on that.
Yeah.
On that point. Because probably from the Purusha Shukta, where it says the Purusha, this is the first avatar explained in the Bhagavatam, is the Purusha Shukta confirmed that the Lord became this universal form, and the demigods divided him into Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, into themselves, the demigods into the elements, and divided him. But that's his material, temporary manifestation. Great example that came to me. Just like you may have a cartoon, a caricature of America, and you could say in the middle is where all the grains are made. That's the belly of America. And up in Boston, all the universities are there. That's the head, that's the brain. And those professors go around. So there's brains and heads, thousands of heads everywhere. And the mountains are his bones, and the rivers are his blood. See, but that's an imagination. That's a temporary conception See,
Right. They said actually that,
universal form, the Purusha Sukta is like that.
yes.
But we know if you divide Purusha Sukta up, Purname Vavashishyate, he's still complete in the balance. You can cut, he can spread himself out in a zillion ways, but he's still complete in the balance. That's Achintya.
Right. Today we were listening to Caitanya Charitamrita, and he says, Kaviraj Goswami says, that we are an expansion at the same time we are energy. The jiva is energy, the tatastha energy.
Yes.
I've always thought the verse in the Brahma Samhita that describes how Krishna is present in each and every atom in his fullness, which to me means that when Krishna is in every atom, he is in his complete fullness, all of creation, material, spiritual, in its infinite, expansive nature is there in every single atom.
That's Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj's amazing statement. The absolute truth is the circle whose circumference is nowhere and whose center is everywhere. Blew my mind.
That's genial.
And not just as Paramatma within every atom, the deity, the Murti that we just sang in the song, to see a Vaishnava, to hear a mridanga, boom, it reminds us of the fullness. Krishna is full there, wherever there's singing, wherever there's name. Nama Chintamani Krishna's Caitanya Rasa Vigra Purana Mukta Shuddha Nitya Abhinna Twang Nama Nama, non-different from the person himself. So Purna is there. And in this age, Kadir Dosha Nidhi Rajan, Asti Heko Mahanguna, Kirtana Deva Krishnasya, Mukta Sangha, Param Vrajet. Name is the most important. Other times, the form in Dwapara Yuga, the form and deity worship. In Satya Yuga, meditating on Paramatma.
Prabhupada was stressing that all knowledge stems from the chanting of the holy name. Chanting of the holy name is the source of real knowledge.
Nama Chintamani Rupa Nameva Paramagatihi Namna Parataranasti Tasmanama Upasmahe. Nama Chintamani Rupa.
Ah, that's another one.
And then there's 3 verses that Bhakti Swarup Sridhar Maharaj, the disciple of Bhakti Baba Puri Maharaj, taught me. He came here, we brought him for a tour. And he gave us 3 verses, in which Tribhanga Bangi Marupa Venurandra Karanchite Gopi Mandya Madhyasta Sovita Nandanandanam. There's no difference there. It's that Lord of the Rasa is Nam too. And what was the third? Do you remember? Kurumalitam Harinama Jape Sucha Sirara Krishna Yordasyam Dehimali to Prataye. So he mentioned, he said, chant this before your rounds. Meditate on this, that there is no difference. I think Prabhu Gora, didn't you mention this? The devotee was, you bow, Trini. The devotee was saying in front of Prabhupada how by chanting one is in contact, or there is some association. Prabhupada said, no, direct.
That was Ranchor.
Do you remember that, Siddhanta?
Yeah, that was Ranchor, who was trying to explain some philosophy to the congregation that Prabhupada asked him to speak. And then his comment in preaching to the congregation was that when you chant Hare Krishna, you approach Krishna. And Prabhupada immediately stopped him and said, no, you are with Krishna.
Directly.
Did I tell the story about the Brahmin and the king? The Brahmins told his son, I have to go away for a few days, so handle what you can, but anything big, tell them to wait for me to come back to perform yagyas. So the father left on a trip. The next day, the king came to the son and said, you have to help me. I was in a battle. I shot an arrow and it went over and it killed a cow. I'm going to hell. Help me. So, well, my father's not here to do the whole yagya for that, to respond to that sin, but chant the name of Ram 3 times and you be forgiven of that sin. So he goes away, and then the father comes back. Anything happened while I was gone? He says, yeah, the king killed a cow, and I told him to be forgiven. I can't do the yagya, but chant Ram Nam 3 times. And the father says, oh no, now we will lose our reputation. Why? One name of Ram is enough. Old story.
It looks like we only have one paragraph left for this chapter. Krishna Chandra Prabhu, do you want to end the chapter for us?
With pleasure. In effect, Shankaracharya preached Mayavadi philosophy in order to bewilder a certain type of atheist. Actually, he never considered the Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead, to be impersonal or to have no body or form. It is best for intelligent persons to avoid lectures on Mayavadi philosophy. We should understand that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, is not impersonal. He is a transcendental person, and the basic principle of the cosmic manifestation is his energy. Mayavadi philosophy cannot trace the energy of the Supreme Lord, but all Vedic literatures give evidence of the Supreme Lord's various energetic manifestations. Vishnu is not a product of material nature, but material nature is a product of Vishnu's potency. The Mayavadi philosophers understand Vishnu to be a product of material nature, but if Vishnu is a product of material nature, he can only be counted amongst the demigods. One who considers Vishnu to be a demigod is certainly mistaken and misled. How this is so explained in Bhagavad Gita. Deluded by the 3 modes, the whole world does not know me, who am above the modes and inexhaustible. This divine energy of mine, consisting of the 3 modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome, but those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, verses 13 through 14.
And yeah, the other thing is how Mayavadi philosophers, do they use the Bhagavad Gita at all to establish their premise?
Oh yeah.
They use the Bhagavad Gita. How
do they do it? They make it all analogy. I said this last time. Krishna and Arjuna on the chariot, that's like Paramatma and Atma, and they're one. And the Kshetra is the body. And the 5 horses are the senses, the 5 senses. And they make it all into an analogy.
They don't accept the historical reality of Krishna, Arjuna.
No.
Wow.
All the poetry.
Incredibly offensive.
Yeah.
I was just informed by Jagadananda Prabhu that our godbrother Bojadev Prabhu has arrived. Bojadev, are you there, Prabhu?
Yes, sir. Dandavat to everyone. Hare Krishna.
Hi.
Boj.
Yeah, I think I met you in Vrindavan. Were you there for the 2015 anniversary of Krishna Balaram installation?
Yeah. That was fun. It was good to meet you there. It was ecstatic
Yep.
Sarabi was there, and so many wonderful devotees, Gunarnava. And,
Gunarnava.
Yeah, it was wonderful, wonderful festivals.
Shruti Rupa, so many. That was a gift. That was a gift to me. One god sister said to me, she was so grateful that I spent the last 10 years finding 800 and something of us. She noticed that I said, I'd love to go to India, but I just don't have the funds. And she said, I don't really have the funds either, but I want you to go. And she paid a ticket to India for me to go attend that festival. Wow.
How sweet. Wow.
Govinda Mohini from Australia. I've never even seen her. She's so humble. She doesn't even have a picture of herself on Facebook. But I'm letting the cat out of the bag. She's very kind soul. She's
so I'm a trouble. Gore, I could be a troublemaker too. So I'm going to say that, like a Brahmin, I've never heard of Brahmins accepting charity from women.
Wow. So, then I guess I'm not a Brahmin.
If someone gives land, gold, new cloth, you can accept
from anyone. Even airline.
Prabhupada got a ticket on the India steamship lines from Sumati Moraji.
That's true. That's true.
So,
there you go. There you go. I'm defeated.
Thank you, my dear God, brother. You protected me from Jivan Mukta. He was after me. Oh, Krishna. Now, we could go on to the next chapter just so that we can have Bojadev Prabhu aboard. Maybe he'd like to do the honors to read the first paragraph.
I'm gonna have to just say goodbye because Gore, we end up going really late and it messes up my day the next day.
Oh, I know.
So
me too.
I really regret it because I love the association, but it takes me a couple of days to recover.
I just don't have the heart to say, hey, Bojadev, great to see you.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that, but I'll join you again on Wednesday.
Well, I know you're not. Yeah.
Srini's here too.
One thing, that last verse, Nabijanati Mama Maya Turati, Mama Maya. So the Mayavadis will say, see, they don't know that Krishna is just impersonal Brahman because of his Maya. Because of Maya, they don't know that Krishna is actually impersonal Brahman. Ha ha. That's one of the twists that they make.
Wow. How could life come from non-life? That's the other thing. How could consciousness come from dead matter?
Well, there is no dead. That's illusion. There is no dead matter. That's an illusion. Shankaracharya's composed the verse that I used to read when I was a kid. Brahman Satyam Jagan Mithya Jiva Brahman Naiva Napara. There's a famous slogan. Brahman is truth, the world is false. Jagan Mithya. The world is right. The Jiva and Brahman are non-different. Every Mayavadi, every Hindu knows that. That gets them off the hook.
Yes.
Yeah, well, they don't make sense.
The world is false, but that means even Krishna is false.
Baba Trini, I forgot you're so humble, and plus you're invisible because you're behind a black screen that says iPhone. So I wasn't so aware you were there. But
by the way,
yes.
By the way, it's Dandavad Bojadev Prabhu, it's Sri Hari and Baba Trini here.
Wow. Dandavad to you as well, and Acyutananda and all the devotees, Siddhanta, and I'm late to the party here. But so happy to be here. Jagadananda clued me in, and yeah, so nice to see everybody. I'm trying to put my camera back on and just set up a photo, but yeah, I hope you. It's been a long time for everybody.
Thank you very much, Jagadananda, for inviting Bojadev Prabhu.
Come on Wednesday.
Rama.
But Baba Trini, why don't you read a paragraph and then we'll have Bojadev read a paragraph? Then maybe we could call it quits because I know that Siddhanta Prabhu usually checks out around this time.
Okay.
Does it begin? It is concluded.
Yeah, it's
Is that where it
chapter,
starts?
chapter 20, the goal of Vedanta study.
Okay. It is concluded that Lord Krishna or Vishnu is not of this material world. He belongs to the spiritual world. One who considers him to be a material demigod is a great offender and blasphemer. Lord Vishnu is not subject to perception by material senses, nor can he be realized by mental speculation. There is no difference between the body and soul of the Supreme Lord Vishnu. Although in the material world, there is always a difference between the body and the soul.
Can you see the next paragraph? Things material.
Yeah, let me just, okay. Things material are enjoyed by the living entities because the living entities are superior, whereas material nature is of inferior quality. Thus, the superior quality, the living entities, can enjoy the inferior quality, matter. Because Lord Vishnu is in no way touched by matter, he is not subject to enjoy material nature the way the living entities do. The living entities cannot attain knowledge of Vishnu by enjoying their habits of mental speculation. The infinitesimal living entities are not the enjoyers of Vishnu, but they are enjoyed by Vishnu. Only the greatest offender thinks that Vishnu is enjoyed. The greatest blasphemy is to consider Vishnu and the living entity on the same level.
That reminds me of these two terms, Guru Bhogi and Guru Tyagi. Guru Bhogi tries to enjoy the assets of the spiritual master. And what's the Guru Tyagi?
One who rejects his guru.
Ah, okay. We don't want to be either. Bhoji Dev, do you have any reflections on what you just read?
Yeah, I'm just looking over the paragraph again. I don't know, kind of a sidelight, but I've been noticing how, Prabhupada says, refers to the nature of Krishna, the nature of the living entity, is Anandamayo Vyasat, that by nature Krishna is joyful. Living entities are also joyful because as a part of Krishna. So that natural joyfulness is constitutional to the jiva as a spark of Krishna, and that in relation to what we just read, that Krishna has no contact with the material energy or no type of enjoyment from that. And that's the Jagad Mitra that we were talking about earlier. The living entities are trying to enjoy that which is false. It's not, it doesn't last. And this world is completely different, made up of that material substance. So Krishna has no connection with that. And the jivas trying to swim in that ocean of illusion are just perpetually bound until we're reached out. A hand is reached out by divine mercy of spiritual master and Lord Gauranga. That the happiness that we're looking for is just underneath everything else that we perceive. When our senses are purified, then we have access to that Anandamayo Vyasat constitutional energy.
When I heard you read this last sentence, the greatest blasphemy is to consider Vishnu and the living entity on the same level. I couldn't help but think of a lot of the popular kirtan singers today. Well, they call themselves kirtan singers, and Rolling Stone magazine described one of them as being a chant master. But in the course of their quote unquote kirtan, they're singing Jai Jagadambe, Maha Durga, Ganesh Sharanam, Om Shivaya Namaha, Om Narayanaya Namaha, and a little bit of Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Sita Ram, all, thrown in for a nice goulash, nice khichdi. And one of them loves to sing Jai Bhagawan, Jai Bhagawan. Who is this Bhagawan? So there's that quote from, I think it's Padma Purana, that says anyone who equates the demigods with that of Vishnu. Well, we say that, right, in the second offense, one who considers the demigods of Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma to be equal to that. No, excuse me, Lord Shiva and Brahma to be equal that of Lord Brahma. Lord Shiva, Lord Vishnu, excuse me, is considered to be an offender. Pashandi, actually, it says. But we see a lot of devotees, they buy CDs by the popular, usually they're followers of Neem Karoli Baba, but I don't know if I'm allowed to say that.
Yeah, I met him. Can I tell the story of Neem Karoli?
Yeah, please.
Please.
Okay. I met him. He had a small Hanuman temple near Vrindavan. And he was just pickled, red eyes, and pickled from ganja.
Oh, wow.
And he used to be, before he got messed up, he was a Mayavadi Ramcharitmanas performer. And that's a Ramayan tinged with Mayavad. But I met him before. But then this Dr. Alpert, Richard Alpert,
right.
His idea was spiritual advancement is the same as LSD. So he went to India with a box of LSD and would give it to sadhus and to see if they changed. And I gave some to Neem Karoli Baba, and nothing happened because he was already stoned. And so, again, before big communication, there was no internet. You could go back to America and say, I found the great one. And if you see him, there was just no wisdom in his face. You've seen his big shape.
Yes.
He looks like my Uncle Max. All he needs is a cigar. And his now follows that Krishna Das. Is that the one who sings?
Yeah.
Durga Ganesha, Krishna, Rama, Ganesha, Hanuman. And by the way, just as a singer, I think his voice is terrible. He's doing an American imitation of what he heard of some North Indian Mayavadi Kirtan people. Because the common Mayavadi people who are given these 5 deities, they can't meditate on Brahman. So they have this false idea of the demigods and they sing in this manner. It's just
isn't his nickname Johnny Cash? Sorry.
Yes.
Prabhupada, many devotees said this from all over the world. They said at one time Prabhupada came into the temple and he said, what is this singing? I never talk like this.
The Neem Karoli Baba followers are the ones that founded the Bhakti Fest and Shakti Fest, which is huge, and all the devotees take part. Radhanath goes, Jadharani, Namarani. We've even gone.
Gauravani from ISKCON.
Oh, yeah. And Vishwambar, Anangamanjari's son, the Mayapuris, and Purnamrita. Everyone attends. And they all think the founders, they all think they're the same as us, that we're following the same philosophy.
Yeah, they were telling us that.
Yeah, that's interesting. A friend of mine, a devotee friend, observed about Bhakti Fest that, aside from the devotees that are chanting there, it's kind of like the birth of Sahajiism in the West, because the people that are there, they're all just there to dance, half naked and try and hook up, and while being in the bliss of chanting the holy names.
Yes, right. It's in the new fad, and so they take terms from devotees. So it's not my bhav, it's not my mood. I mean, all these words are becoming like really misused.
Hijacked.
Fortunate.
Yeah.
But we did a really nice children's program with them and Chaturami.
Yeah, I get nervous when devotees talk to me about moods.
Oh, right.
Yes.
That's nerve-wracking.
It's funny how Lord Chaitanya is, slowly purifying the whole thing, because at first there was just their own group, and now the the devotees are coming and chanting nicely, and so hopefully that's having a nice interjecting some purity.
I was at a japa retreat one time in upstate New York with a bunch of devotees, Sacyunanda Swami and Mahatma and Badahari. And Krishnadas came on the last day.
Wow.
and spent a couple hours there. And first he listened to us. He listened to Sacyunanda Swami talk about, japa and all that. It was the conclusion of the course. And then, so he sat and listened for a while, and then they invited him up to chant. And we had already been chanting. Badahari was leading and some different devotees. And anyways, he definitely appreciated being there. And the devotees were really nice. They let him chant, but and it was kind of a mood changer when he started chanting. But anyways.
At the end of Shakti and Bhakti Fest, they have all the people that take part come up and lead kirtan. They have a kirtan going on, and they switch to all the people. And so we actually took turns leading, and they seem to really like what we're doing, but they have no clue that they're like massacring the philosophy.
Well, that was one thing I was going to say, is like how many devotees are being made of the Bhakti Fest gatherings,
That's a good question.
Yeah.
That's a good question. For all the stellar, so-called stellar devotees that participate, I don't see that.
Yeah, for all the good, ripe, first-class devotees, kirtaniers that are coming from the Vaishnav camp. Doesn't seem like anybody's crossing the river.
Right.
Yes, I was just talking to Pancha Dravida Janardhan Maharaj the other day about this. He was being quite jokey about it, actually. We were all just having prasadam lunch, and he was being very amusing, saying that he got kind of stuck out at this terrible Shakti festival, which he also described as a sort of pickup joint for Hollywood types who pay very big money to go there and think they're being spiritual and whatnot. And I think he had somebody in his line, I can't remember who it was now, who does a very expensive kind of light show thing, very high tech, and he was somewhat disparaging about it, saying, it was just hugely expensive to put this on, and that they didn't really, make any devotees or anything like that. He was quite sort of not suspect about the whole thing, but a bit disparaging.
It's actually not true. Actually, a lot of devotees are made at Shakti and Bhakti Fest by the followers of Prabhupada. There's a huge amount of people on the Big Island who came in contact with Krishna consciousness through Bhakti Fest and Shakti Fest, and they met the devotees. I've been to several. They had us do a children's program once, and we just totally did Prabhupada's program. It was very nice, and Shamrani was there. I've seen your group there. We participate with you. So by the devotees being there are a lot of people being guided correctly.
Yes.
That's good. That's good. It's good to know.
Shamarani will keep the faith. She won't compromise.
No,
Never.
not at all. You should see the reaction of the children. She had them all enthralled, and encouraged them because they were using Bhattarini's book, coloring book, for a contest.
We did a so-called coloring contest. So I picked out a picture. It's a songbook coloring book. So I picked out a picture for each person to color, and it was a little each child. It was a little devotee putting on tilak, and it was the song telling you how to put tilak on. And each person colored it in. All the children colored it in, and then it was given to Jadharani to judge. And she said, "Well, I can't judge." So each child was given a few minutes with her, and they come up, and she'd look at the picture and say, "This reminds me of when Lord Caitanya," and she'd tell them a pastime, or she'd look at their face and say, "This reminds me of some process of devotional service." And
she would pick first. I mean, they were so enthralled. She first would tell them the qualities, how good a particular thing they've done. And then she had it. I mean, it was like they were listening to her.
Oh, yeah, I like the colors you chose.
Yeah, from colors to shapes and whatever they've done. She praised everyone. And so encouraged them and then guided them to hear, little things about Prabhupada, things about Lord Chaitanya and the movement. So it was like the mothers, you should see the whole tent, like it just, lighten up, and it was very special. So yeah, the festival in general and the main stage, yes, you got to watch it. I mean, it is really, it's like a new fad thing, and yeah, it's a place to hook up and all that, but there are separate booths and places where, like Radhanath Swami spoke. Of course, Jadharani and Shamarani has a booth and a tent.
And the temple from Sokel.
The Saraswati Mat too was present. Like that, there are several Gaudiya Vaishnavas present, so they make a little, they save the festival in a way.
I made some relationship with Jai Uttal, Krishnadas's, if you want to call him God brother. And I asked him, I said, matter of fact, I met him for the first time. The first time I attended a Narayan Raj festival, I guess it was 2007. I was asked, I went with Tridandi Maharaj. We went to San Francisco, and they rented some Oriental Hall in downtown San Francisco, and they had Jai Uttal as the main kirtaneer singing for Narayan Raj. And anyway, I contacted him online, and I said to him, "Are you familiar with who started the contemporary kirtan movement?" He said, "Who's that?" And I said, "Lord Chaitanya." And he said, "Oh, is there any good books about him?" I said, "Yeah, the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita," and I sent him the link to the database.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So maybe you had that influence on him, because now, the last festivals of Rath Yatra, ISKCON Rath Yatra in Los Angeles, he's featured on the main stage, Jai Uttal.
Oh, and he sent me his CD. He also does songs for children. And he said, "I think you'll like this one," because he put the Hare Krishna mantra on it. He's quite a professional. He was trained by Ali Akbar Khan on the Sarod. And
yes, I know. I met him all with Kula Shekhar. He took me there in the 80s. So I went met Ali Akbar Khan and Subramaniam. No, he wasn't there. The tabla player, Zakir Hussain, and like that. So yeah, that's what I met the group with, the new Kula Shekhar from England.
I later saw a photo of Jai Uttal with Gornitaya deities, wooden Gornitaya deities. So yeah, it's it's kind of delicate because we don't want to be influenced by Mayavad, but at the same time, Jai Uttal seems to be open to Lord Chaitanya and Vaishnavism.
Well, the other thing is that Jai Krishnada, I'm sorry, Acyutananda Prabhu?
No.
Okay. Krishna Das got Sting to sing on his album, and he sings the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra on it's a track called Mountain Hare Krishna.
Right.
And he sings Hare Krishna, Sting singing, and then he goes into I don't know, Amazing Grace.
Yeah. We can encourage.
Yeah.
Catch the big fish, don't get wet.
I heard though
Yeah,
he's
that's right.
I heard he's not even vegetarian.
Really?
Chinatown.
Jayutala?
The Krishna
Krishna
Das.
Das. Yeah.
Krishna
But
Das.
his favorite food is pepperoni pizza.
Well, that's what
Oh.
Sura told me. Sura was on the same bill as Krishna Das. They had ordered prasadam. They delivered it to the yoga center where Sura's temple bhajan band was playing, and Krishna Das, and they offered Krishna Das Krishna prasadam from the temple. He said, "It's okay. I ordered a pepperoni pizza."
Really?
That was years ago. Maybe things have improved since then. That was some years.
Yeah,
Mayabad, even to hear Mayabadi's chanting or reciting Bhagavad Gita Sanskrit slokas, Prabhupada said, no, don't hear them. I went to a big Mayabadi. I was invited, Acyutananda, and he looked at me and he goes, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare. And I felt like saying, everybody chant Hare Krishna except you. You could hear the offense. You could hear the offense.
What pains me. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's.
I was in a flight. I was in a flight from, I think, Texas probably to New York, and they had on the plane. They had at that time, I think it was in the 90s. They had Krishna Das in one of the tracks that you can listen to. It was like, but then when I got to meet him at Bhakti Fest on stage, it was backstage was Karanamrita and all these devotees and Gauravani and all the luminaries of ISKCON like that, and he tells me, well, I'm going to retire. I said, oh, how can you retire from chanting Hare Krishna?
No, all these musicians, we thought that they were spiritual, Ravi Shankar and others. And then others said, well, after the concert, they would be having chicken and smoking, and just like any mundane musicians, And the message that goes out to the public is that, well, I'm not a musician, Do I have to be a musician to? No, you just clap your hands together and chant.
Yes.
I'll say it again. I was at the Rath Yatra of Central Park, band shell, 500-600 people, and there was a Hare Krishna rock and roll band, and nobody was joining. And the leader was going, come on, everybody join. Nobody could follow the melody. So he stops the band. He goes to the front of the stage, says, like this, Hare Krishna, just clapping. 500 people chant Hare Krishna. And he stops, he goes back, kicks off the band again. 500 people stopped.
Yeah, that's one thing. Narayan Maharaj has there's a little video, and he's talking about that. He said, you have to be careful. He said, let's say we chanted Radhe Jaya Jaya Madhava Dharite. He said, well, if you pay attention to raga and ragini, rhythm, perfection of tabla playing, you're just gonna miss the point. He said, you just use your hands, perhaps that's all you have, but the point is that song should melt your heart. So if, don't pay attention how perfectly you're going to execute it, rhythm, etc., but to pay attention to what are you saying, what are you singing, and then perhaps the goal of that song is to honor Radhe and to melt our hearts. Should be the end result of it.
I don't know any of those ragas, what names they are, what the scales are, what the beats are. I don't know what they are. I just take a mridanga and I bang it. Krishna,
But it's
and I
also-
got that, and I got that from Krishna Das Babaji, who taught me a lot of songs. And he was just bang the thing. I didn't care about art, you know.
Right. You were my favorite Caitanya.
What do you mean was?
I remember when I
But
first came to,
the main thing I said, I don't have a singing voice like that. I can keep it in tune, but if you pronounce the words, the beauty of the words comes out.
Yes.
It's what you don't do. And even classical, I was taught that when I learned real music, you know, you don't put a lot of mush over it. Just play the teacher, even master classes. No, the piano player will be putting a lot. No, just play it the way the composer made it. You're not better than you're not better than Mozart. You know, just play it as it is, and the music beauty will come out. So what to speak of mantra? You're gonna and did you ever hear an opera singer sing the blues? Terrible. It's horrible.
Pavarotti.
Terrible. You know.
One of our Sankirtan boys, he walked up to Keith Richards and Ronnie Wood after they'd done some concert in Ireland. And he presented them with some of Prabhupada's books. And he said, I used to be a big fan of yours. And Keith Richards said the same thing as you did, Acyutananda Prabhu. He said, you used to be? What do you mean you used to be?
Well, one time Prabhupada just looked beautiful. And the devotees said, Prabhupada, there didn't seem to be a line in your face. You look so young today. He said, why only today?
Yeah, I don't mean. I would have said better actually is that my first impression, you know, of true kirtan, except for Prabhupada, it was your first tape, and I could see. I mean, now I understand your association was first class, and so you learn really what kirtan is. And that's my thing. Going back to this Bhakti Fest, this new generation. I mean, I see it as like a fine line. They want to perform. They want to be heard by thousands. Is, you know, and then the Bhakti is lost on the way.
Well, we had a weird experience. We were chanting japa and we put Shishastakam on YouTube, and it was Gauravani singing and it had the words. So we wanted to be able, it didn't have the words. Anyway, we put it on, and this movie started with.
It's a Russian production.
It's Gauravani's group chanting the Shishastakam, very nicely done. And they had this Mayavadi story, like a Bollywood movie, to the Shishastakam. There's no chanting. The guy's in the Himalayas, he's doing austerity. We were going, what is this? We never figured out what it was. But Nuri Hari Prabhu said, well, Gauravani probably didn't notice that there was a Mayavadi movie put to his song. He just noticed that he had 230,000 views.
I was going to suggest for this Friday, it's the disappearance day of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. What do you think, Acyutananda? Rather than focusing on Bhagavad Gita, would you like to just talk about Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur?
Yeah.
It is also Gadadhar. It is also Gadadhar.
Right.
I'm starting with people. So, you know, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, it's just coming for the first time now, reminds me of Madhavendra Puri, that in this line, all of a sudden, this great Acharya comes. He's known as the seventh Goswami. Right. He composed so much. He composed hundreds of songs. Commentary. Yeah. There's a whole commentary in Chaitanya Bhagavat. Baba Prakash. But he was first instructed by Smarta Goswami, Vaishnava Goswamis, but he left them and got empowered to be spread this movement. And his instructor guru told him, well, he was Vipin Bihari Goswami, and he was a smoker. So this is not Guru Tyag exactly, but he knew not that to spread this Lord Chaitanya's movement, especially he wanted first time to spread it in the West. He even sent a book to our Emerson.
Yep. Oh, yeah, that's right, Emerson.
Yes.
So he knew that they would not ever accept any foreigners because they're caste Goswami. So he presented himself with Jagannath Das Babaji and Gaur-Kishore Das Babaji, two of the most well-known Paramhamsas at that time. He was the magistrate and manager of the Jagannath Puri temple. And so he was a highly qualified person who could handle this. And he was a magistrate. A magistrate is kind of like the magistrate and the sheriff. Magistrates, if they get a complaint, they go with the police and arrest the guy. And then you appear before the same guy who arrested you in court, and he's your judge. So he would sell some of. There was some crazy devotee that flames would come out. Even the police were afraid to go. He shut him down.
Yeah, he made his family sick too.
Shut him. Yes.
Shane.
Shut him down. And we know the story also when Bhaktisiddhanta was born. The Rath Yatra, because Bhaktivinoda Thakur was so important, the Rath was stopped there. Not that it stopped. They stopped it in front of his house for him to come out, and a garland fell from Jagannath onto Bhaktisiddhanta as a baby. So everybody knows this is some special point. Then, being a magistrate, he had all access to historical books and maps, and he discovered the true Mayapur.
Right. Yeah.
There's a Balal. There was a Maharaj Balal Sen who had a lake, and in Chaitanya Bhagavat it said Lord Chaitanya saw this pond and fell into ecstasy, thinking that it was the Jamuna. So that pond is there, and then there's a big hill because Balal Sen buried his house in earth to hide it from Muslim invasion. So this big hill is there. That's Balal Digi, Balal Dipi. And so all these signs were there. And they were not in anywhere on the Navadvip side. So also, then he approached for this land. And yes, he bought it from the Muslims. And they said, how come you never cultivate rice and crops on that part? He said, whenever we plant there, tulsis grow. And Jagannath Das Babaji, who was over 100, came there. He would be carried by a servant in a basket. And he jumped up in full height and danced in ecstasy.
Yeah. He was, at that time, was he 140 something years old? I know he entered Samadhi at 144, something like that.
So I don't know what his age was at that time.
But he couldn't walk.
He couldn't barely walk or anything. His eyes were covered.
Right.
So on. And so Bhaktivinoda Thakur then, and he sent Bhaktisiddhanta to Gaur-Kishore Das Babaji for initiation. Several times he went because he did not want his mission to be thought of as a Smarta family branch, Bhaktivinoda Thakur and son,
Right.
So, and there's an internal version also that Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his Sakhi Bhava is from one Kunj, and Bhaktisiddhanta is in Sakhi or Manjari Bhava from a different Kunj as Gaur-Kishore Das Babaji. So that is their internal relationship. And so also Bhaktivinoda Thakur really rejected, and so many verses. It really was there to go against the Sahajiya. The Sahajiyas by that time, even from the beginning, even in Jiva Goswami's time, there was trouble with imitator Vaishnava Apasiddhanta. So it was by the time of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, it was horrible. They had assembled all around Radha Kund, and you see some even the local Hindi, the North Indian, in what is their title? The Jats, and it's the Indrajits, anyway, the Hindu, North Indian Hindi speaking Vaishnavas of Radha Kund, Govardhan, and Vrindavan, Varsana goes, that they didn't like them at all. You see some man in a Paramhansa garb, there's some talking going on. You see some in a, hello? Somebody mute your phone.
It's some high-pitched music. Who is that? Please mute your phone.
Okay.
Your computer.
It's
So
not us.
imagine,
It's not us.
imagine that you see someone in a Paramhansa dress of a Babaji Maharaj, and his mouth is red with betel nut. He's smoking ganja, and he's got a woman. So this brought terrible terror, and this was going on in Navadvip, Vrindavan, Radha Kund, and then pretending to have ecstasies and doing madness, and then all these Bhaktivinoda Thakur has a verse of 13 Apasiddhantas, Aul, Val, Smartha Gosai, like that are all rejected as imitation gurus. Who's making that noise?
Sarboboma. He's got noise there. I'll put him on mute.
Thank you.
Okay. What does
Yeah,
Vinod mean? What does Vinod mean?
Beloved.
Sorry?
Beloved. But there can be many more versions of that also. So we're only down to 2 pictures here. Everybody left?
No,
No.
Jagannath was there.
We're
Krishna
here.
Chandra,
I can, for some
Tom
reason,
I have that effect on devotees, you know.
oh, there we are.
Why is the Krishna Samhita considered to be a controversial book?
I think it's controversial too, because that was one of his first books, and I think he was then appealing in a easy way for the British way. So he says some things that are very, very strong, but he says some other very, very important points there. One thing that I remember he says twice is that it is easier for a Kanishta to be elevated to Uttama than a Madhyam who has to cross over an ocean of arguments. So
Yeah.
like me, you know, I had to, we would debate with Prabhupada. What about you know, but the Kanishta, in the right association, can be elevated to Bhava Bhakti very quickly without having to argue over. So his contribution is mainly that. He had to discover that he wanted to write the commentary in Chaitanya Charitamrita. At that time, they couldn't find a copy of it. Even finally, they found one copy. So it was out of print for so long.
Did you read his autobiography that he wrote to Lalit Prasad?
No.
No. It's
extraordinary family.
It's a letter that he's writing to Lalit Prasad about his life story, and he says that it's not for everyone to read because they'll misunderstand.
Yes. Yes.
But it was amazing, his life story.
Yeah.
And I believe the family were Durga worshippers.
I couldn't hear you.
No, that I believe the family was they were Durga worshippers.
Yes.
Pretty prominent. And
Yes.
his grandfather was a mystic. I think he left.
His father's family was from Puri, but they didn't have much money, so he lived with his mother's family.
Uh-huh.
And but he went to Puri to see the departure of his grandfather, who left like in a mystic fire in front of, and he was
not many years ago.
It's been many years since I read it, but it was amazing. And he actually was not raised vegetarian either.
Yeah.
And he was becoming famous as a writer of non-devotional literature. He wrote an epic called Portide or something.
He sent to the world.
And
Yeah.
about a village that was wiped out by a near
Yeah.
John Graham, but a village that won a prize. Won a prize. And he was initiated at 40 years old. Vaishnava initiation was when he was 40.
Right.
He was married as a teenager to his first wife, and neither of them were old enough to be married. He said it was like a wedding of two dolls. And he had one child with her, and she passed away.
Oh.
But his whole village was wiped out. He wasn't there, and he went back to visit. And his first, he had a brother. They got food poisoning, and the brother died when he was still school age.
Yeah.
But I mean, all these things that I spent a long time since I read it, and I'm making it sound very mundane. And although he was warning that he didn't want people to misunderstand his life and judge by it, it was very transcendental. It was an amazing.
Yeah.
Bhavatarini, I think the piece of literature you're speaking of is called the Sva Likita Jivani, autobiography of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, original English translation by Shukavak, and the version edited and introduced by Karnamrita Das Adhikari. So I have it here.
Oh, yes. Okay.
All right.
I have it here. It's only about 75 pages long. I also have that became a part of this book, which I've not read yet. I wanted to read it. It's Hindu Encounter with Modernity. It's Shukavak about Bhaktivinoda Thakur.
Where can you find that book? Because we haven't read that.
Forward is by Thomas J. Hopkins.
Oh yeah.
It's printed by Shri Shukavak. Let's see, Shri in Los Angeles, 1999. Sanskrit Religious Institute. The Life and Thought of Kedaranath Dutt Bhaktivinoda.
Yes. He met with Ramakrishna. He didn't even want to see him. Ramakrishna was there before the big mission, but the big missions, the Mayavadi missions that thought they would bring India into the 20th century were Mayavad. That's called the Brahmo Samaj and the Arya Samaj. And that fired him up to reestablish the proper Caitanya movement, just as Bhaktisiddhanta's main force was to overcome the Ramakrishna mission. But the Arya Samaj, no deity, no nam, not even scripture. It was almost like Buddha coming to reject everything. We're all going to be modern. And that got very popular because people said, "Oh, we don't have to worship anymore. We don't have to. We can eat anything." So that's the attraction of this. We're going to become modern. And what it was kind of like a Stockholm effect, because they were occupied by the British at that time, and previously by the Muslims. So they said, "Okay, no religion. We're all one. We're just Jagan Mithya. World is false."
I remember in Well, sorry, Acyutananda, I didn't mean to interrupt. You wanted to
No,
finish?
it's over. I didn't say over.
Yeah, I was just remembering how in Karnamrita Prabhu's book, Seventh Goswami, I don't remember the details now, it's been a while, but the British were amazed by Bhaktivinoda Thakur because he could make a judgment on a case within like very, very short time that they would need to take hours to mull over, and figuring he'd just be like right there. And he lived his life with a stopwatch, or I forget the schedule that he followed, but it was totally amazing.
This is superhuman. I mean, I remember reading that maybe 3 years ago, his schedule. It was absolutely, I mean, no human can do such thing.
But that also reminds me of our Prabhupada.
Yeah.
I tried to calculate how many books. It was something like 100 pages a week.
Yeah.
Because he'd be up every night. He'd be up every night with the dictaphone. And most of the purports of the translations of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Bhaktisiddhanta Vishwanath Chakrabarti,
and Sridhar Swami. I got a
Sridhar
chance,
Swami.
an opportunity in Mayapur. In Mayapur, I got it. I'm sorry, you're not over.
What?
You didn't say over.
You didn't say over, sorry.
Over. I'm done.
Okay, so a little thing. In 1976, Keshava got me a chance to guard Srila Prabhupada's room, so I could see directly into his room. And from 9 to 11, and it was the same room he had received pretty much the world. Everybody went by. And by 11 o'clock, 2 hours later, his light went on. And he got up, sit up, and started with his dictaphone. I think went on past midnight. I was relieved, somebody else came and took over. But he had a mosquito net and a huge book. I believe it was Sridhar Swami's commentary. And the same place that he received, hundreds of people went by that room. During the day, he just laid back in his asana or his phone and sat up 2 hours later. So that's all he slept while I was there. I believe I came to guard him about 8 p.m. and by 9 the light went off, and 11 o'clock 2 hours later his light was on again.
One time in Hawaii, he said, the 6 Goswamis, they only slept 2 hours a day, but I cannot imitate. I sleep 3.
If he had only come out with the Caitanya Charitamrita, it would have been historic. But Gita, Charitamrita, Nectar of Devotion, Teaching Lord Chaitanya's Summary Studies. I mean, how many small books? Isopanishad, Manashiksha, Upadeshamrita.
Teachings of Queen Kunti.
Articles.
Teachings of Queen Kunti. Oh, the wonder book. He was a genius in naming books. He just grasped the consent, the public consciousness. At that time, traveling to other planets, it was the easy journey to other planets. That was amazing.
Who is crazy?
Excuse me for interrupting, but sorry for interrupting, but I've never heard. Does anyone know how the Krishna book was composed and when it was composed? And
well, it was released in 1970. It came out in 70.
And was there any indication that Prabhupada put it down by dictaphone rather than?
You can get it. You can listen to it. The Bhaktivedanta Archives has released Prabhupada speaking into the dictaphone, the whole Krishna book.
Wow. Okay. Thank you.
I'll tell you how he got the dictaphone. A story about the dictaphone. We saw that he would type with 2 fingers, and so Gargamuni went and got a dictaphone, and at the shop they showed him for half an hour how to operate it, and then they packed it up and he brought it back to Prabhupada, and he said, Prabhupada, I'll show you how to work it. He said, that's all right, I know.
Yes, I heard that.
There are no dictaphones in India, you know.
Right.
But he said, that's all right. I know how to work.
Paramatma. I found the schedule. Between the years of 1874 and 1893, Thakur Bhaktivinoda wrote several books in Sanskrit, such as Sri Krishna Samhita, Tattva Sutra, and Tattva Vivek, which was sometimes known as Sat Chid Anandam Bhuti. He also wrote many books in Bengali, such as his Kalyana Kalpataru, and besides those, in the year 1874, he composed his famous Sanskrit word Datta Kaushtubam. Besides these stupendous accomplishments, he used to chant the holy name of Krishna with great faith and love for long periods in seclusion. All this was possible because of the rigid schedule he followed. So from 8 o'clock at night till 10 o'clock, he was taking rest. So that means he'd be waking up by now. From 10 to 4 o'clock in the morning, he would write. From 4 to 4:30, he'd take rest. From 4:30 to 7, he would chant japa. From 7 to 7:30, do his correspondence. From 7:30 to 9:30, study Shastra. From 9:30 to 10, bathe, take simple prasadam. From 10 to 1 p.m., court duties. From 1 p.m. to 2 p.m., refresh at home. 2 p.m. to 5 p.m., he would do his court duties. From 5 to 7 p.m., he translates Sanskrit Shastras to Bengali. And from 7 to 8 p.m., he'd bathe and take simple prasadam. Thakur Bhaktivinoda rested just 3 hours a day in order to fit in his studies and japa, which took roughly 4.5 hours. His writing, which took up about 8.5 hours, and his services for the government, which took around 6 hours of his time, day in and day out. He followed the schedule very strictly. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur was an inspirational figure of the history of Gaudiya Vaishnavas, and his ideal utilization of time stands as a tall standard for followers to emulate. So he's the original time management guru. Wow.
And his writing was with a pen. I saw his original books at Lalita Prasad's room.
Yes.
And they're bound now. They were bound. And I think Hari Sori has taken scans of all of them. And they were bound, but they're all in handwriting.
And yet
I think the greatest for me, and you can hear the audio by Tridandi Maharaj of the complete Jaiva Dharma. And there are other small books that he wrote. There are other small books he wrote, which is Prema Pradeep, Bhakti Alok. And one of them has characters in it. So I think it might have been a short outline of the Jaiva Dharma, which is written like has some storylines in it.
You think his Jaiva Dharma is kind of like his crowning jewel?
For me, it is.
Yeah.
But others may think the commentary, Baba Prakash, of Chaitanya Bhagavat, Chaitanya Charitamrita might be that. But for me, Jaiva Dharma.
Oh, it's amazing. Sri Narayana Maharaj would say, I read that book, Jaiva Dharma, over 108 times.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And Bhakti Pragyan Kesava Maharaj, when translated it, he thought for a while about the last chapter on Rasa Tattva. He thought maybe he shouldn't print it. But thank God he did. Thank Krishna he did. He's there. So Tridandi Swami, I asked him because we know each other for a long time through association with Sri Narayana Maharaj. And he had done part of it, but now he's got the complete Jaiva Dharma. And for me right now, it's a lot better to hear than try to read. I mean,
yes,
on schedule, etc. Getting older now is harder.
The eyes aren't working as well.
Has anyone come across the Bhaktivedanta Institute website by Nrsinga Maharaj? They're constantly putting new material up, translations.
Audio? audio?
No.
I
It's
don't
called
know.
Just go,
bhaktivinodinstitute.org.
Is that from the Chaitanya Saraswati Math?
Nrsimha Maharaj.
Nrsimha Maharaj is in South India.
Yep.
Very reliable. His disciple just came out with a book.
yeah, we know his disciple, Sannyas disciple, is the son of Ravindranath. Nrsimha Maharaj passed away, I believe a couple of years ago.
Oh,
Yeah, he's not around.
oh, I didn't know.
I had 5 Skypes with him, or rather, I had 3 Skypes with him, 5 hours at a time. He just was so. He sent me a box of his books. The shipping from Mexico was $99. I said, "Can I reimburse?" He said, "No, not necessary." He was taking he was doing cancer treatment with CBD oil at the time, but he sent me a whole box of his books, of which I was telling you about one of them, Acyutananda Prabhu, the Prakrita Rasa Aranya Chedini.
Yeah. So you read some of it to me. It sounds very, very Bhaka.
Yeah, he was Rashik Babuk devotee.
I know it must be in the afternoon for all of you, but I'm personally starting to get a headache at 10:30.
Oh, yeah, we'll let you.
Sorry, our apologies.
I need to turn in, but I hope everyone will come back Wednesday, including you, Boja Dave Prabhu.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the invitation. And Hari Hari, Baba Tarini, everyone, Gauradas, Chitananda Prabhu. Not in any specific order, but dandavats to all of you, and look forward to next time.
Jai.
Jai
Thank you.
Prabhu. Jai
Prabhu. Jai. Hari Hari Bol.
Hari